would like to start this video with an official apology. Hello, fellow book nerds, this is Gabby, and today we're talking about December 2023 books I read. Said that weirdly. It's a wrap-up for December books. I read 9 books, and there's a book among them that I wish I put on my favorite books of 2023 list. And I need to, come clean about that, because in that video, I literally said I don't feel like there's a book that I'm reading right now that will make it onto this list. And I already started this book. So mistakes were made, but let's talk about it. Okay, so December reading was all about enjoyment. It was mood reading. What did I feel like picking up? What did I want to explore? Because all these books probably won't make it on my 2023 favorite list, so I can film the video and it's fine. And then mistakes were made. So we're going to talk about the mistake first, which is Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. So this book is, I don't even know how to begin to describe it. So Ken Liu, I think, is quite a well-known author. This book is a winner of Hugo, Nebula, and World Fantasy Awards, and it is well deserved. So this book is an epic fantasy, and we follow this kingdom who used to be many separate states, with each their kings, their own culture, their own identity. But then this conquering force came and colonized and conquered the whole land under Emperor Mapidair, I think. And he said, this is one country now, one land, everyone's going to speak the same language, we're going to make everything uniform, everything's going to be like I want it. And Emperor Mapidair has this mission of eradicating violence from the world, and the way he thinks to do that is conquer everyone, take their weapons, melt the weapons, and then there'll be forever peace in the world. So the book follows an uprising. We have rebels, and the death of the emperor sets off a series of events where there's a long war, and there are two kind of heroes that come from that war. Matazindu, who is a nobility. He's the son from this noble line that was eradicated, but he survived, and he thinks it's his mission to take revenge, take power, and bring back what once was a great country. I think he's from Kokru, but there's a lot of countries here. And then we have Kuniguru, who is a peasant nobody, who is considered extremely lazy, not going to achieve much in life, and he decides to become a rebel. And the two of them meet, but this is such a large, sprawling, epic story. This could be a standalone, this could just be a book by itself, but it's beginning of a series. I think there's 5 books in the series. I'm reading this with a friend, and she was the one that was like, I'm gonna read this in December. And I was like, well, I've been interested in it, let me pick it up. So my library had it, which I'm very happy about, and I was not prepared for how amazing this book was. It's very different than what I'm used to reading. It's very bird's eye view, if that makes sense. It's omniscient, multiple POV story, which is really, really big and sprawling and epic in its nature. You hear about these people rise to power, succumb to power, die, and it can all happen with a span of a chapter. You'll meet a character and there'll be a whole chapter about their whole life explaining what they did, and they just showed up in the story and literally sometimes 500 pages in. So it's very different. But I think this was absolutely brilliant. The way it made you care, despite the fact that you do have a little bit of a distance from the characters, but you still care about every single one of them, and you understand what they're about, and just the ability of the author to make you understand what these people are about. I think there's so many themes. It talks so deeply about war and power and culture and violence, and how great, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And there's also gods in this, and how gods are playing into all of this. Using narratives and politics. There's so much politics and so much battle maneuvers. If you know me, you might be like, and you like this book? Because you have heard me bitch about Malice oh, not the first book, but like the sequels and how much fighting there was and how tedious that became. But nothing was tedious here because it wasn't simple. This person drew a sword and this person drew a sword and we fought for 5 minutes with the swords. It's battle maneuvers and outsmarting your enemy. And yeah, this is just absolutely epic. I wish I could have put it on my favorite books of 2023 list. It's officially up there. If you care about my favorite books of the list, my favorite books of the list, of the year list. If you care about that, this book made it there. I think if you're a fan of epic fantasy, please pick it up. It's just so good. And I know everyone knows this, and I know every award person knows this, and I'm just silly, but this book is brilliant. Absolute, like 5 stars, no questions asked. I cannot wait to continue. I feel like my heart will be broken time and time and time again. And I'm just so happy because I feel like this is me coming back to epic fantasy and making a statement and remembering why I'm a fantasy girly through and through, and I need to read more things like this. So if you have a series that you think is as good as this one, let me know if it's similar or something or equally dramatic. Yes, kind of forgot that this review is not just for that book. Let's talk about other books I read in December. Let's start by talking about all the romance. Okay, first book I read was not actually a fantasy romance, it was just a romance. So it's called Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy, which is a historical romance. And I read this book because it was in the books by Palestinian authors recommendation list and just sounded really good. I love historical romance like this. I don't read it often because it's, for me, it's more of a palate cleanser. Like I need it once in a while to have fun with, but I don't want to read this every day or whatever. But this one was so fun. I really enjoyed it. So in this book we follow okay, it's like a wild premise because I was reading this on a plane and I pretty much read that in a plane ride. I was going to India, so the plane was long, but still. We follow a woman who's a widow and she travels and stops by this tavern and meets this man who she thinks is really charming, but he's a duke, but she doesn't know that because when he travels, he disguises himself as someone of lower class to not get robbed. And they have a one night stand that's like super passionate, and then turns out that he's actually getting engaged to her stepdaughter. So they're not like related, but she was a daughter of the guy that this girl married. So the main character did marry her husband really young and he was much older than her. So her and the daughter like very similar in age. But yeah, it's just like if Bridgerton season 2 was even more dramatic because it's not just sisters, it's like stepdaughter and stepdaughter and stepmother, which probably sounds weird and you probably are like, what? I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't remember exactly everything about it, but I remember the steamy scenes were steamy, but then we were actually deprived for a very long time, and I think that worked really well to build the tension, even though we open with a very graphic steamy scene, but then we kind of take a break and a breather, and yeah, it was just really fun. If you like historical romance, I would recommend this one. Then probably a weird one, but I read Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I actually reread Twilight, but I've never read it in English, funnily enough. So I've reread this in Polish. Oh, it must be like 4 or 5 times. Like I was obsessed as a child. But me and my friend, we're doing this, same friend as Grace of Kings. So we have multitudes. Our friendship contains multitudes. We reread together Hunger Games series before the release of the new movie. And I was like, girl, I want to reread Twilight really badly. Like I am ready with my adult eyes to finally go back and reread this. And she said yeah, so she's a good friend. But yeah, we made it to book 1 so far, Twilight. If you don't know what Twilight's about, it's about this girl called Bella who moves away from California where she lived with her mother, or Arizona, right, where she lived with her mother, to Forks, which is this town in the Midwest that is like the foggiest and rainiest town in all of America. And she meets this guy who's a bit weird. His name's Edward, and he's a vampire. Spoiler alert. Is this a good book? No. Is this a desirable relationship? No. Do I get why I got obsessed with it as a what, like a 13-year-old or however old I was when I read this? Yeah, I get it. I do get it because it's angsty and it's kind of just fun. I don't know how I'm gonna feel as the books progress, but it was just kind of like wacky and over the top, and Bella's so dramatic. I will say I've never noticed how condescending and patronizing Edward is. There were times when I was like, shut up. Like, why are you telling her how to feel and what to do? Like, oh, he really is. Like, everyone is right. He really is condescending. But I'm still want to continue the series. Just gonna read the main series. I have no interest in Midnight Sun. I do not need Twilight. That's like 3 times this size. But yeah, I gave it like 2.5 stars. Like, I don't know. Like, I get it. I get it why I was obsessed as a tween. I'm not obsessed right now, but it was fun. Whatever. I got it from the library. So that's good. But weirdly, they don't have book two. Why would you have book one but not book two? Of Twilight. Is there any more popular tween book ever? I don't think there is. So that was very confusing for me. And then I read a romantasy series, I want to say. So the first book is called The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I also picked up the sequel, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. So this book I saw on TikTok, someone recommending for like fans of Fourth Wing, and like if you want like a romantasy fix, and I was in my romantasy fix needed era. So I picked this one up and I really enjoyed it. So the book is about this human girl who was rescued by the king of vampires because her village burned up, and he like plucked her from obscurity and raised her as his daughter. But the world is incredibly cruel. Vampires are incredibly bloodthirsty. So her whole life she pretty much lived in fear and knew that she is an inferior creature and she is not safe while living in this world. So her father, the vampire king, encourages her to join this tournament where you fight to the death, and the winner will be able to ask the vampire goddess, I think it's called like Nyx or something, a favor or like a wish, and the goddess has to grant it. So she participates in this competition. There's a dark brooding male, although he's not that brooding. He's pretty fun. There's a dark male, whatever, a vampire who's also participating. The vampires here are a little bit like fae, actually. They have wings, and kind of magic, and stuff like that. So they're a little bit of a mix on like fae and vampire. I enjoyed the world building, although I did have a lot of questions like, is this vampire world like the only world? Like there's human districts, but do humans come from somewhere else? Is this all there is? But this book is not for questions like that. And I feel like the questions that it is for, you know, like the magic system and the love story and all that, like that was good. So I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. I read the first book. I think I also started this on the plane or something like that. I like read it and then read the sequel right away, just because I could, because I had fun. It was in Kindle Unlimited, and I gave both of these 5 stars because I feel like as far as romantasy goes, I have no complaints. It was it as good as like Race of Kings? No, obviously not. But as a romantasy, it's really fun and it delivered. So yeah, I had a good time. Another romance that I picked up was Rogue Princess by B.R. Myers. So this book is a sci-fi YA romance, like gender bent retelling of Cinderella. So I just saw this on script and it was calling to me, so I picked it up. But in this retelling, we have like the Cinderella is this guy who lives with her stepfather and stepbrothers who are really mean to him. He works at the palace, and one day by chance he meets the princess of the kingdom, who right now is deciding who her husband will be. I honestly thought this was cute. It was fun, it was lighthearted, it was a creative retelling. At first I thought I wouldn't be feeling it. I really liked the cover, so I picked it up and I had this urge to read it, so I did. And then I was like, I don't know. But then they actually got really fun and creative and different. And I think the world was interesting that was set up. It's a sci-fi world on this faraway planet, and they have like very interesting technology and political systems. So I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite book of the year or anything, although it was the last book I finished in the year. Like 20 minutes to midnight. But yeah, the audiobook was fun. Although, actually, that's a lie. I did not enjoy the audiobook. I feel like the voice acting was a bit weird, especially for the guy. He had an incredibly weird accent I did not enjoy. But, like, it was a British accent, but, like, not the nice posh British accent. And yeah, I didn't like the voice acting, but the book itself was cute. I would give it like a 3.5 for what it was. But yeah, it was a fun time. All right, then let's talk about the two arcs I read. I was on a mission trying to read some arcs. So the first arc I picked up was Murder by Candlelight by Faith Martin. So it's set in 1924 in Cotswolds, and it's about this guy who wrote a book on paranormal activities, and he's known as kind of like a lazy person who doesn't do much. He wrote this book that became really popular, and now he gets approached by this older lady who wants him to investigate paranormal activity in her house. And it's like a cozy murder mystery in vein of kind of Agatha Christie kind of thing. I really liked it in the beginning because I found the two leads to be really compelling. So we have the guy, and then there's also his childhood friend who kind of helps him solve the crime. And I thought their dynamic was cute. There was like a little bit of like she has a crush on him. He's completely clueless, and that was just kind of like fun and lighthearted. The characters alongside the atmosphere, I think, were like the strong points of the book. I really enjoyed again how lighthearted it was and quirky, and there was a lot of like old-timey 1920s speak slang, and it felt very over the top, but I almost didn't mind because it was like fun and light, and I don't know, I was just enjoying myself. As the book progressed, I did like it less. So the thing that I felt were lacking was like the murder mystery itself. Like the method of the murder was interesting, but the motive and the perpetrator and like who could have done it and all that conversation bored me. I thought it was very unimaginative and lackluster in its execution. And I also felt like there was a lot of subplots that were kind of dropped, and I was really confused because I was like, okay, if this is a first in a series, I can see that it's setting up things to be like moved on with the series. A Goodreads doesn't have anything about this being a series, but I just saw, I think on like Wikipedia or Amazon or whatever, it said it's a first in the series. So I think then it's a little bit more forgivable. And I also wrote in my review that I was actually confused with the ending so much I felt like I missed pages. I don't remember what the ending was, if I'm being honest, which is never a good sign. Like I read this month, last month. I ended up giving it like 2.5 stars, and I'm not sure I will continue the series because although I enjoyed the characters and totally can see how their dynamic will just become more and more fun, I don't know as well. I feel like, I don't know. The murder mystery would have to be really good. And then the second arc I read was Hokey Pokey by Kate Mascarenhas. So I did not know what I was signing up for with this book. So I read that it was like a 1920s murder mystery. I liked the cover. I thought fun, right? And then it's like a sci-fi obsessive romance story. Really, like the murder mystery is really not, to me, was not the main plot of the book. So we follow this girl who is living in this hotel, and she's there because she's following this famous singer because she was asked by the singer's husband to trail this woman to figure out if she's cheating on him. And the main character has this power of mimicry, so she has like perfect memory, so she can recollect anything she's seen, read, heard, and then she can also mimic people perfectly. It takes on this like fantasy, sci-fi kind of twist, which actually was really cool and interesting because it was different than what I'm normally experienced in terms of mythology. It was an interesting spin, something completely different. and maybe it's mythology that I'm not familiar with or something, but it was still really fun for me, something new. The romance is a sapphic romance, which I did not know or expect going into this book. I will say it's not like a healthy romance. It's about this like obsessive, toxic relationship, kind of. And that also comes in quite late. But I told my friend who really enjoys these violent delights, but not by Chloe Gong, by Micah Nevermere or whatever his name is. If you enjoy that book, maybe you will enjoy this book. I didn't enjoy These Violent Delights, that one, but I really love the Chloe Gong one, but not that one. But I did have a semi decent time with this one. I kind of had a alright experience. I gave it 3 stars. I would not be saying this is my like favorite book or anything. But it was like refreshing and weird. Okay, and the last book I read was like the most devastating book I read in a while. It was called More Perfect by Temi O. So, if you're not familiar with Temi O, she also wrote Do You Dream of Terror Too, which was also a devastating book. But More Perfect is a sci-fi dystopia where we follow this future London, where we have access to this new technology, which are essentially like iPhones in our brains. Like they implement a chip and we can access all kinds of informations. We're online on the grid, but we don't need like any devices. It's all in our head. That's like a technology that's driving kind of discussions in the book. But then there's 2 main characters. One of them is a girl whose mother dies in this flood that happens in London as a result of an attack, which Thames Barrier got blown up. And all of London flooded, and it was like a super traumatic event. And the main character's mom died, and she and her 3 sisters kind of have to fend for themselves. She's a ballerina, trying to make it as a ballerina, but in the meantime, she's working at like pollinating flowers because all bees have died. Nature can no longer pollinate flowers, so it's a job for humans now. And she's not coping well with her life. She always has fallen in love super quickly with the wrong man, and she becomes like super clingy and obsessed. And she wants more out of life, but she's very clearly depressed and struggling. Then we have Orpheus, who's the other main character. So he grew up in this isolated island of the coast of UK with his father, completely cut away from all technology, analog, and his dad was like this conspiracy theorist, and he thought, the government will come for him one day, and then the government does. So when Orpheus is relatively young, his dad gets killed, and Orpheus gets taken into an orphanage, forcibly implanted the chip, and now he's working for the company that makes the chips, and he can control dreams. So in this world, like the technology in your head also allows the government to like implant dreams in your head and stuff like that. So it's a lot of political commentary. It's a lot of ponderings about what it means to be human, human connection, relationships, freedom, government surveillance. Like a really big part of the book is this vote, where people will vote against or for total adoption of this technology, where everyone will be forced to have a chip like this or not, because right now it's a choice. So it's really echoes kind of firstly the pandemic and kind of the throes of pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on the world, and then also it really was reminiscent of the Brexit vote in the UK specifically. I did think it was really cool for the book to be so deeply set in London and like rooted in London, but it's like futuristic London. I really enjoyed that because I live in London, so it was really a cool, different experience to experience that. I think the whole world and the setup was so incredibly clever and well thought through and intricate, but so deeply depressing and nihilistic. I felt, to me, there was no hope in this book because the ending I just found so dejective, because I'm gonna spoil it for you, but I did not have a good time reading this book. I think this is an incredible book, absolutely gorgeously written, so powerful, so thought provoking. I think everyone should read this book. I did not have fun reading this book because yeah, I was like the most, I think my review on Goodreads is simply the most depressing shit I read in a while, and probably the most depressing shit I read since Do You Dream of Terror 2, which I remember thinking had hope. Which this one's like nihilistic. I was talking to my friend about this book, and I was saying that this author Temi and Suzanne Collins would be best friends because they both love just depressing the shit out of you. So yeah, this book was great, but I will give it 4.5 stars because I I don't think I've been this sad and dejected in a long while after finishing a book, which, hey, maybe you're listening to that and you're like, yes, please give me that. And I think you should pick up the book because I think it will make you think a lot, which is very important. And this is what we read, right? But it was pretty depressing. Those are all the books I read in December. This is the last wrap up of reflecting on 2023. There will be, of course, more wrap ups coming whenever I finish reading books in 2024. So subscribe if you're interested in that. I will have more reviews coming, more end of year content. Oh well, now it's beginning of the year content. But yeah, if you're interested in my best books, worst books, 2024 releases I'm excited for, or stats, most of those videos are out, and if they're not out yet, they will be out soon. But yes, let me know what's the favorite book you read this month. I think for me, it's definitely Grace of Kings, but More Perfect was extremely thought-provoking. What was your favorite book that you read in December? I want to know all about it, but thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one.